Buonasera, welcome back to our Italian sessions. Apologies, I have not been very present recently, but it's not always possible to do this as much as I like it. Let me tell you first of all that on the channel there is a playlist which is for beginners, and in fact it is called Italian for Beginners. So unless you are on an intermediate or advanced level, you will find some of the other videos like this one a little bit too challenging. So yes, if you have just started or recently started studying Italian, perhaps you want to watch the videos in that playlist. Instead, on the channel, there are also a variety of videos which cover different topics which many people can find a little bit difficult. First of all, it's not first of all, but anyway, let me thank you for subscribing and following the videos and liking and commenting on the videos. The last videos that I published were about the congiuntivo, which was a request from a regular subscriber who follows all the videos. In fact, I do need to keep up with this with this follower, with this subscriber who is very diligent student. So you will find congiuntivo, prima parte, congiuntivo seconda parte, and this video is congiuntivo terza parte. So in the first part, we saw the endings and how to use, when to use the subjunctive, and then the second part, we saw the past subjunctive, congiuntivo passato, and also when not to use the subjunctive. So this one, this third part, terza parte, it covers instead congiuntivo imperfetto. I did say in the second part that congiuntivo is not really a tense, it's a mode. So if we want to, which is grammar terminology, I did say we have indicativo with presente, passato prossimo, imperfetto, and then we have congiuntivo also with presente, passato, imperfetto, and trapassato, which we do have for indicativo. You can see them a little bit like cousins. So they are used in different contexts. So they have same tenses. As I said, they have both the present, the past, the imperfect, the trapassato, which is pluperfect, I believe in English. However, they are used in different contexts, meaning, and that is when you learn subjunctive, it tells you when you need to use it. If you remember, if you have already seen the part 1 and part 2, if you haven't, do so before watching this one. We have a long-ish list of verbs, expressions, and constructions, which are followed by subjunctive, congiuntivo. So this is the difference, really. In fact, we'll see it a little bit later, but translating is sometimes from Italian into English, you don't necessarily have a difference in the translation from Italian into English. So you have to be really careful instead when you're translating from English into Italian. Like everything, when you're learning any subject, it does look a little bit complicated or difficult, challenging at the beginning. And then with practice, obviously, it becomes a little bit more manageable. So let's go and see one of the tables that I have. Let me share it. So we'll start looking at, if I find them, yes, we're going to start looking. I need to share it though, that's what I'm not doing. Looking at the endings. Why can I not share this? I've just understood where I was going wrong. So here we have the endings for congiuntivo imperfetto. So we have done presente, we have done passato, and now we are doing imperfetto. So the endings, in general, the endings of the subjunctive are not difficult to learn. In fact, they are less to learn. They're less for each person. You have less endings to learn than the indicativo. It's just when to use it and how to use it is more difficult instead. So let's see, here we have the usual three groups of verbs. So the verbs in are, the verbs in ere, and the verbs in ire. As you can see, they're already telling us here at the top what happened. So the verbs in are become assi. Remember, here they are mainly, in fact, referring to the first three persons, io, tu, lui, lei, which, if you remember from the congiuntivo presente and passato, are the same. And then ere becomes essi and ire issi. So this is, again, a repeat for the first three persons. Let's see them in particular. So remember, io, tu, lui, and lei, of course, are the same. Well, io and lui, actually, here, the same. Yeah. Instead, in fact, in the present, the three of them are exactly the same. Here, quite similar. So the first and second, exactly the same. The third, very similar. And then we have noi, voi, loro. You can see here. In fact, I'm going to read them. And this table that comes from one of my favorite books, which I have mentioned before, it's really good also because it helps you if you can see that some letters are underlined. It shows you where the stress in the word goes, because sometimes they have a specific intonation, and it's not necessarily natural to follow that intonation and to put the stress in the correct syllable. So let me read the first conjugation of the first group in are. Io parlassi, tu parlassi, lui, lei parlasse. Noi parlassimo, voi parlaste, loro parlassero. So you can see that the stress is exactly in the same syllable. Unlike other tenses in general, I'm talking about now. The verbs in ere, io, in fact, you can see at the beginning they put a beginning of a sentence, really. Quindi bisognava che io avessi, che tu avessi, che lui o lei avesse, che noi avessimo, che voi aveste, che loro avessero. Finally, the third group in ire, era necessario che io finissi, che tu finissi, che lui o lei finisse, che noi finissimo, che voi finiste, che loro finissero. So remember that the subjunctive follows, as I said earlier, and I've said also in the previous videos, it follows certain verbs or expressions or constructions. So very often, just before the verb with the subjunctive, we have che. And because some of the persons, especially in the present and past, are the same, especially the three, very often we do use the person, the pronoun io o tu, lui, lei, to make sure that there is no confusion about who we are talking about or who we are talking to. So you don't really start a sentence with the subjunctive. As I said, the subjunctive follows other parts of the sentence. You can see the example here. Angela voleva, you already have the subject, you have the verb of the subject, you have that. So Angela wanted that, and then you have the second part of the sentence with the new subject and the verb in the subjunctive tense. All these I have explained in the previous two videos. So if this is not making much sense, make sure to watch the previous two videos on subjunctive, the first and second part. In fact, I'm not going to repeat the rules for the imperfect, congiuntivo imperfetto, because they are exactly the same as presente and passato, exactly the same. So whenever you want to revise the rules for subjunctive, you can watch first and second part. The third part, this one, is specifically for the imperfect, but we are assuming, I am assuming, that you have already watched the other two. Here at the bottom of this table, you can see some irregular verbs. One is bere, bevessi, dire, dicessi, fare, facessi, porre. I won't worry too much about this verb, ponessi. We do have the usual suspects which are irregular. In fact, the essere. In fact, I wonder if you have seen or you know already the essere, the infinitive is fossi, fosse, fossimo. So these are usually, in fact, always essere is irregular. Every tense, every mode of verb of essere is irregular. Dare, to give, is also irregular in the congiuntivo imperfetto, and stare is irregular in the congiuntivo imperfetto. So these are the endings for congiuntivo imperfetto. The cousin, definitely not grammar terminology, the cousin of our imperfetto, indicativo imperfetto, which is the one with the V's. So you can visually, you can become familiar with certain tenses according to their patterns. So the imperfect in the indicative, indicativo has the V, avevo, facevo, andavo. Instead, the imperfetto congiuntivo, you have double S, parlassi, avessi, andassi, etc. It's something that helps you recognizing it when you see it, but also help you find it in your mind, in your memory when you want to use it. So these are the endings of congiuntivo imperfetto. Now we do have other tables. Let's see some examples. Let me see, I have to try again to share it. Yes. I don't know, why do I get this one wrong often? So we're going to see some examples like we did previously. We're not going to see all the sentences, but it gives you an idea of, in fact, of how similar they are. The principles between the imperfect and present and passato, presente and passato are exactly the same. In fact, we have, if you go back to the previous videos, as I said, you can see exactly the same verbs. The only difference is that in the previous videos, the verbs are in the present tense. Instead, here they start with imperfect. So can you see there is a pattern? We'll see a little bit after we'll see a couple of tables, and then we'll go to a table which compare the two, and it will make a little bit more sense what I'm trying to say now. So do you remember the examples in the previous videos? They started with credo, penso, which is the present, indicativo presente, followed by congiuntivo presente or congiuntivo passato. Instead, here we have the verb, the first verb, in the imperfect tense, indicativo, followed by imperfetto congiuntivo. So presente indicativo credo, followed by presente congiuntivo. But we'll see, as I said, we'll see a table in a bit. It will make more sense. Instead of trying to explain it now, and it looks a little bit, it sounds a bit abstract. So let's see a couple of examples here. Credevo che lui fosse più intelligente. I thought that he were more intelligent. He was more intelligent. Immaginavo o supponevo che tutto fosse finito. I thought, I supposed that everything was finished, actually. Mi pareva o mi sembrava che lei fumasse troppo. It seemed to me that she smoked too much. Non ero sicuro che Mario fosse veramente bravo. I wasn't sure that Mario was really good. I'm sure you're realizing now, hold on a second, where is the difference in the translation? That's I think the difficulty with the imperfect, congiuntivo imperfetto, and again, we will see it in a little bit in a table that we'll see in a couple of minutes. You'll see the difficulty of the congiuntivo imperfetto. It's not really learning when to use it, because once you learn the present and passato, then automatically the imperfect is exactly the same. But I think it is in the translation. Because it doesn't really show, as I said earlier, it really does not show when you are translating from Italian into English. And so I guess that will add a little bit to the difficulty. So don't think about the translation, just think about the rule. After these verbs, after these expressions, after these constructions, I need subjunctive. That's it. So you have to think in Italian, really. Don't think, oh, but in English, how you say like that, it sounds like. You have to think in Italian. This is the rule, I'm going to apply it, and it doesn't matter instead what happens in English. So these examples, and which you can compare with examples of the previous videos, are for congiuntivo imperfetto. Now let's see a couple of examples of, let me find it. Yeah, congiuntivo trapassato, which is one, um, basically going back in time. You have passato, and the trapassato is before the passato, an action that happened before the specific action. Let's see, again, let's see a couple of sentences. So congiuntivo trapassato is the cousin of the trapassato indicativo trapassato. So I had done instead of I have done. So let's see a couple of examples. Si è comportata così perché credeva che tu avessi parlato male di lei. She behaved that way because she thought that you had spoken ill of her, about her. Pensavo che foste tornati, per cui non ho provato a telefonarvi. I thought that you, plural, had returned. Therefore, I did not try and call you. Nonostante avessi mangiato a casa, ho accettato di cenare con lui. Although I had eaten at home, I accepted to go for dinner with him. So can you see again this translation, the translation of congiuntivo trapassato is not different from the indicativo trapassato. The difference is that these verbs, first of all, they are congiuntivo, not indicativo, but remember they are they follow certain verbs or expressions or constructions. It is really it's a whole quite a structure. You really need to study a little bit the structure of this subjunctive. It's something, well, something that you just have to accept. It's a little bit just a little bit different from indicativo. Later on, now, in fact, I am publishing these videos with these tenses or modes, in fact, modes or different tenses anyway, separately. However, after we have done all these, and only please watch them only when you're familiar enough, really, with each of the tenses or modes, and then we can compare them and see a little bit better, understand a little bit better how they refer to each other, or what they have in common, or why you would choose one tense or one mode instead of the other, one tense in particular. Because I repeat, very often the translation in English doesn't really change from Italian. So in Italian, we have quite a few tenses. In English, instead, a few more than one tense in Italian can be translated exactly with the same tense in English. So that's why it just makes it a little bit more complicated. However, I remind you now, whenever you have difficulties with verbs, and not only with any topic, please take the opportunity when you watch any video they could link with some difficulties that you're having. Write a comment, ask a question, and I will explain whichever topic you're finding difficult. I'm going to explain it a little bit more. I'm going to bring more examples. This includes a video like this one, or any other video that you watch which are already published. Do ask questions or more examples, and if there are specific points, specific things that I have said, and you don't find them clear, let me know, and I will explain it again. I will add a little video. These things are useful for everyone, really. It's like, imagine, I don't know if you have studied the language or anything else really in class, and somebody saying, "Oh, I didn't understand anything." Hopefully, somebody will ask a question, and nobody can see you here. So do ask a question, because it is always useful for everyone. Right, now we are going to see what do we have. So we have seen the endings, we have seen congiuntivo imperfetto, congiuntivo trapassato, and now I'm going to share this table. And if you remember, if you have watched part 1 or 2 of congiuntivo, we have already seen the first part of this table. And here, this is such a good table, really, because they are comparing or just putting together, really, the present. So here we have present and past, and here we have imperfetto and trapassato. And this is the table that I said you'll see a little bit better how they work, not how they work together, but how you can compare them, and the fact, especially the fact that the translation translated from or into English, it really does, it really doesn't help. It really does not help. That's why I repeat, don't worry too much about the translation into English. Just study this congiuntivo in Italian. And of course, yeah, you have to understand it in English. You have to translate it either way. But when you try to understand it, see it try and see it, put your like Italian hat on and and see it from an Italian language point of view. And that's why this mode, this congiuntivo, it is not for beginners. It really is not for beginners. If you're a beginner, look away now. Start from from more basic lessons or topics or videos that I have published instead. So let's come to this table. So do you remember here? We have what we saw before, and that's what I meant earlier. Can you see here? Credo is in the present tense, and it's followed by either present o past, presente o passato congiuntivo. Instead, the congiuntivo imperfetto, the imperfect, it starts with the imperfect indicativo, the one that at this point you have already studied, and then is followed by congiuntivo imperfetto or congiuntivo trapassato. So presente, passato, imperfetto, trapassato. So this, I think this table does help to see how they refer to how to refer to the different tenses, really. But also it shows you that it works exactly the same way, but one is closer to the present and the other one instead is in the past. So quickly, let's go through this, the first part, if you remember. So I believe that, in fact, read it in Italian first. Credo che Laura faccia o farà un buon lavoro. So I think that Laura does or will do, if you want to use the future, a good job. This is for the future, remember? So you can choose to use the future tense, but however, remember that in Italian, very often, instead of the future, we use the present. So in this case, the present would be congiuntivo. Um, or otherwise, if we are talking about something about exactly now, credo che Laura faccia un buon lavoro. I think she does, is doing a good job now, at the moment. Credo che Laura abbia fatto un buon lavoro in the past. I think that Laura has done a good job. Also here, as I said before, when you're translating into English, you cannot see the difference between indicativo and congiuntivo. Here, instead, this table, which is the imperfect and è trapassato, we start with credevo che Laura facesse o avrebbe fatto un buon lavoro. So remember, we're talking about the past. I thought that Laura did, in fact, I did write some translations of this, just to try and help, really. So I thought she would do, or would have done, or was going to do a good job. This we're talking about the day after. So I thought in the past, I thought that Laura, the day after, would do or was going to do a good job. Again, here there is no trace of a separate or a new tense in English. You are instead using other tenses. The second one, credevo che Laura facesse un buon lavoro at that time. I thought that Laura would do again, or was doing at in the specific time a good job. And then here we have congiuntivo trapassato. Credevo che Laura avesse fatto un buon lavoro the day before. I thought that Laura had done a good job. So this is an action that has happened already. So as you can see, really the translation does not help. You can't say, and I wonder if that is the difficulty of subjunctive, really, if the translation is the difficulty of the subjunctive. And in fact, let me know what do you find more difficult when you're studying subjunctive? What is the most difficult thing to understand? Because as many expressions, verbs, and constructions that there are, which are followed by the subjunctive, those things you can study them. However, when you see, for example, when you see tables like this, what do you find more difficult? Or do you just accept that these are the rules and it's more of a, let's say, an automatic learning, disregarding the English language in a way? Let me know, because I am curious. In my experience at the beginning, yes, obviously there is always difficulties, many questions about anything, really, any new topic. But I have to say that my students, my regular students, which I've known for a long time, they have learned the congiuntivo quite well. So I wonder if the congiuntivo is not that hard after all. It's just a myth. Let me know, please do let me know, because I am not just curious, I'm really interested why people find certain things more difficult than others, and what exactly you find more difficult. Or I wonder if maybe I'm just assuming the congiuntivo is more difficult than other tenses or modes, and maybe it's not necessarily. Is it the fact that, as we said in English, it does exist, but it's more hidden, it's more subtle than it is in Italian. Anyway, so this is congiuntivo terza parte, also part three. Hopefully, I haven't made a mess, a minestrone of it, really. And as I said, please feel free to ask questions and uh, if a clarification, more examples, and do let me know, as I said, how you found congiuntivo, if you've done it before, what you found difficult about it, or if you have just followed these videos for the very first time about congiuntivo, let me know what you are finding difficult, if you are actually finding it difficult. Thanks again for subscribing, liking, sharing, leaving comments, and also let me remind you that I do private tuition, and so get in touch, and we'll find a time which is convenient for both to have a chat if you want, and then we can have tuitions at whichever level you are at. Now, it doesn't matter if you are complete beginner or intermediate or advanced. If you are only looking for a conversation and you have already reached a certain level, you just want to keep it up, or you need to or want to learn it. So I leave you now, and I will see you on our next session. Arrivederci. Ciao.